guests, judges and friends. A very big warm welcome to you this evening, and tonight my speech is going to be called Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover. And it's based on 40 years of working in a second language, having contact with people of very different creeds, races, ethnic beliefs, religions, different colours of skin, and also for being able to be in charge of all the Asian countries. And so, if you would, I'd like you to join me on an imaginary journey, and we're going to go to Bangladesh. So the purpose of my speech is to demonstrate mixed culture communication. So if you're ready in your minds, if you'll just join me, and we'll go to Bangladesh. And we arrive at the Australian Embassy in Bangladesh, and we go to the room marked Customs and Immigration. And it's a fairly quiet posting because there's not too much happening in Customs and Immigration between Australia and Bangladesh. And inside the room is a young diplomat. The temperature is 115 outside, there's just a fan going overhead. He has a 3-week-old copy of the Sydney Morning Herald. He's got his feet on the desk and he's pretty bored. And he's going to go back to Canberra in 3 weeks. Canberra, the centre of his world, maybe a new, more exciting posting. And his name is Charlie Oz. And he's sitting there and there's a knock on the door. Come in. And a little Bangladeshi man comes in. Good morning, sir. My name is Jagdish Natali, and I'm wanting to immigrate to Australia. Oh, really, Mr. Natali? That's very nice. So if you want to immigrate to Australia, there's a few forms that you need to fill in. So he gives Mr. Natali these forms, who's somewhat shocked. Also, obviously, there's so many forms. Yeah, I know, Mr. Natali, but you know, if you want to come and live in Australia, you've got to fill in the paperwork. So if you fill in that paperwork and you don't make any mistakes and there's no spelling mistakes, I'm going to ask you 3 oral questions. What's up? What do you mean oral questions? Well, I'm going to verbally ask you and you will answer them verbally. So the first question, Mr. Natali, that I want to ask you, he said, is how many days of the week begin with the letter T? And Mr. Natali goes to answer. No, Mr. Natali said, not now. When you filled in the paperwork, you bring it back. The second question, Mr. Natali said, how many seconds are there in a year? Well, it fries Mr. Natali's brain a little bit. It's a rather over-awesome question. And Mr. Charlie Oz says, when you come back. And the third and final question, Mr. Natali said, how many D's are there in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Awesome. Not now. Please fill in all those forms and then come back. So off Mr. Natali goes, and the young diplomat goes on with his life, and he's down to 10 days, and he's pretty bored, and he's also excited that he's going to go back to Australia. And anyhow, there's a knock on the door. Come in. And in comes Mr. Natali, and he's looking very dapper. He's got a beautiful white, crisp, clean shirt on. He's got his little briefcase, and he opens up the briefcase, and he gives them all to Mr. Charlie Oz. And Charlie Oz goes through it, and he's impressed. I mean, there's not a mistake, there's no crossing out. And he said, wow, this is really, really good, Mr. Natali. I'm very impressed. So he said, look, let me ask you the oral question. The first question, Mr. Natali said, how many days of the week begin with the letter T? Mr. Natali looks and he said, well, sir, he said, there are 2. Today and tomorrow.
Yeah, good.
He said, well, that's not technically the answer that I wanted, but he said, you're right. Second question, Mr. Natali said, how many seconds are there in a year? Oh, Sabi said, what a very difficult question. I'm giving my father, brother, grandfather, my mother were talking and talking and talking. What he said there are 12. 12 seconds in a year, Mr. Natali. Oh, yes, sir. 2nd of January, 2nd of February. So he said, well, technically, you're right. And I'm going to have to give it to you. Now, the third and final question, Mr. Natali, if you're successful with this, I will stamp your passport and you will have a visa to go to Australia. So, the last question, how many D's are there in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Well, Tabby said, this was the most difficult of all the questions. My entire family were talking and talking and talking. Very difficult. But he said, sir, there are 120. 120 D's in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Oh, Mr. Natali, oh, yes, sir. D, 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 D. All right, Mr. Natali, I'm going to give you a chop and you're going to Australia. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't judge a book by its cover. Respect other people's viewpoints, and I'm sure we can make the world a better place. And I also believe that that's the tenets of Toastmasters. Thank you very much for your attention.